Welcome to our third week of golf course design class. Hopefully everybody's caught up with the lectures so far. We will be getting ready for an exam after our next section. But today we're going to talk about the area of golf that pretty much I have not traveled to, but I have studied, and it's very interesting to me. This is the Heathlands, which is west of London. And this is an area that I think is the most similar to the Sandhills in Pinehurst. This is the first place golf was taken to the people. Willie Park Jr., an architect that is very dear to my heart because I grew up caddying on a golf course that he designed. H.S. Colt, who was a very well-educated clubman. Fowler, who came late to the game, and then the Triumphant. And the Triumphant are three golfers, excellent golfers, Varden, who you've probably heard of, Taylor, and Braid. And they're going to factor, two of these gentlemen, Braid was afraid of traveling, but two of these gentlemen are going to factor very large in The Greatest Game Ever Played, which is a movie we're going to watch or you're going to need to rent for the second exam. The Heathlands are 50 miles west of London. They're well-drained, rock-free, sandy soils on undulating hills. And this is why I say they're probably a lot like the Sandhills. We're near the fall line, so we've got beach soils, or sandy soils, on a hilly site. And that really makes for good golf courses. Covered in heather. Heather is a different plant than gorse. And I want to show you some pictures of heather. It's a lower plant. Rhododendrons, like we have here in the mountains. Firs, and also pines, and pines just like the pines of southern pines. It would have been easier to build, meadows were used first, but eventually trees were used in design and trees were taken out for the first time in design. So this dramatically increased the cost of building golf courses. And here's a picture of one of the most famous Heathland golf courses. This is Sunningdale. This is a place where Bobby Jones won a few tournaments, and you can see the pine trees back in the distance. But a very open meadow, almost like the moors that they talked about in Werewolves of London. And this is a very similar Tobacco Road-looking rough around the edges golf course. You can see that cars would be traveling here on this road, like the road at St. Andrews, and it reminds me even a little bit of Yeaman's Hall here in South Carolina. This is the superintendent of one of the courses in Scotland, and that's heather here. So you can see it's a lower plant. This is a plant that they're trying to conserve. You can see over it. It's not going to frame a hole, but it is going to provide a formidable obstacle if you get your ball into the heather. This is Glen Eagles golf course in Scotland. So this is the natural. When they got these sites, they wanted to bring golf to the people, but they found sites that were good, and the natural sites they selected where the greens would go, and then they also selected grasses for seeding and sodding. And this is pretty much the first agronomy that is done on golf courses. And then if they couldn't find the good sites because there were more people able to play, they were able to move earth. And they didn't move earth with a D4 bulldozer like we do today. The earth moving was done by hand, and it was very labor intensive. So you can see another Scotland, this rolling yet still sandy soil. And here's that moving of earth. You can see there's their sod cutter. They're up there cutting sod to take to the golf course. And here's their D4 bulldozer, a pan connected to a team of very large horses. And this is similar to the way Donald Ross designed many of his early golf courses. So a lot of handwork, a lot of sweat used to move these horses to get this job of building a golf course done for the first golf courses built in the Heathlands. The first guy we're going to talk about is Willie Park Jr. Willie was an excellent golfer, pretty much the next great golfer after young Tom. He won the Open in 1887 and 1889. He was from Musselburgh, so there's a pretty famous golf course there that's one of Ben Crenshaw's favorite. He was one of the first, matches were played up to this time, but he was one of the first to be described as a great stroke player because he had no tilt, no temper. He was an excellent putter, very big guy, made clubs, wrote books, and played with Willie Dunn and his brother Mongo Park. And Mongo and he are both going to come to the United States and design some golf course here, which allowed me to make a living when I was a youngster caddying at Meadowbrook Country Club. That's Willie Park. He made 2 trips to the United States. He was a perfectionist. If you want to read some of what he wrote The Game of Golf and the Art of Putting. You won't need to know that for the exam, but it is a pretty interesting read. His most famous golf course is Sunningdale, and Sunningdale is really the Heathland great golf course. It's in the Berkshires of the Heathlands. He built up the tees, so you hit from high to low to high, which is one of the tenets Rich Mandel talks about good golf. There were no cross bunkers or square tees, so he used natural-looking obstacles. They did build one of the first artificial ponds. All hazards are visible from the tee, so he thought about scaring the golfer. There was no blind shots. And in 1926, Bobby Jones shot 66 here to qualify for the British Open. And here is a picture of Sunningdale. And Sunningdale, to me, looks a lot like our Pine Valley. Wide open. Trees are off to the side and very rough around the edges golf course. There's that magnificent par 3 at Sunningdale, the 5th hole. And there is the 5th hole today. So you can see that the trees have dramatically grown in, and they're on actually that's not today, that's in the 70s, but they've tried to remove some of these. So it's gone through a similar life cycle like Pine Valley and some of the modern courses in the United States. And even Tobacco Road, in my opinion, really has way too many trees. You could remove a lot of the trees and have much better turf and a much better playing field. He also did Huntercombe in the Heathlands. This was the first housing development golf course, and it failed miserably. It was also one of the first with 2-tiered greens. Housing and golf seem to go together in the mind, but in actual spirit, that's oftentimes not the case. And we can see, even I think Donald Ross's the Pine Needles is a great golf course, but the holes surrounded by houses leave a little bit to be desired. H.S. Wind, one of the famous golf writers of the day, really spoke highly of Willie Park. Devised holes that look natural and play well. So you could say that's even what Tom Fazio was trying to do today. And the doyen, or the senior member of golf course architecture, by Sir Guy Campbell, one of the other really famous early golf writers, and he will also be in the movie that we're going to watch in a couple weeks. On his trip in 1916, he visited all of the courses he designed during construction. Meadowbrook Country Club in Michigan, Olympia Fields Country Club in Illinois, Maidstone on Long Island, the Blue Course at Penn State, one of the few public golf courses you can play, and then in North Carolina, the Grove Park Inn, and that's been redone since. But very interesting, good golf course designed by one of the first golf course architects. The next architect we're going to talk about in the Heathland trio that we're talking about is H.S. Colt. Colt is one of the first architects to not be a pro golfer. He was a Cambridge-educated lawyer, pretty rich guy. He became the club secretary at Rye, then was hired away at Sunningdale, so he was able to study Willie Park Jr.'s work. He supervised many changes. The park was also involved. And he made the modifications in 1898 when the new Haskell ball came out. So the same thing that happened when the Gutta came out happened when the Haskell came out, and the golf course had to be modified and lengthened to make it play the strategy that Willie Park Jr. devised to play the same. He trained Allison, who we're going to talk about next, and then Dr. Alistair McKenzie, who became partners of his. McKenzie's very, very important architect. We're going to have a whole lecture on him, one of my favorite architects. They were both partners. He was the first, not to be a golf pro, first to use a drawing board, so the first to actually draw, and the first to plant trees, put trees on his planting plan. So similar drawings were used to the drawings that they do today in landscape gardening that the Westmans teach the landscape gardening students. So that is a course that, if you had time, it would be good for you guys to take that so you could read this modern method of drawing and representing landscapes. He was a member of the R&A Rules Committee, so he was not only an architect, he was well respected in the politics of golf. Was a pretty decent golfer. He won 2 Jubilee Vases. He was picked out of 435 applicants for this job, so he was really sought after. He played golf quite a bit once he got the job, and he actually was not around very much. So he was a famous enough guy to get a job that there really wasn't much for him to do there, but just in name, he was worth the money. Here's the 8th green at Sunningdale. You can see on a slope, and you see pretty big houses for London area. Swinley Forest, designed by Colt, was the first golf course routed through thick trees, and you can see this is similar to what we do today. We cut the corridor. We use heavy machinery. They use dynamite at this thing, and I like that Colt was pretty critical of himself. He said, instead of saying Swinley Forest was his favorite golf course, he said it was the least bad course he ever did. Even though he was partners with McKenzie and Allison, they spatted a little bit. They really competed for jobs. Allison was one of the first architects to do jobs without going to the site, and Colt didn't think that was right. He thought you needed to go, you needed to walk the land to build a golf course. So this is an argument that is still ongoing today. Colt was also an agronomist, and I'm going to talk about that in some of the next slides. The reason he had to be an agronomist was because when you moved from the sandy soils of the links to the heavier soils of the city, you had drainage problems. So he had to learn about drainage. Worms are not really a problem on sand. They are a problem on finer soils. There's going to be organic matter. They're going to live there. They're going to put castings on the green. So actually he endorsed products that were designed to kill worms. Most of those were arsenics. Lack of fine turf. They had to bring turf in, and some of the Victorian designs, the square designs, that they would have to contend with and remove that thinking from the membership that was building the golf course. And here, this is an ad that I quite like. Vermol definitely kills worms and grows good. And this picture here is right here. This guy is said to be Colt. So he's saying, get rid of the worm. So the superintendent had to get this Vermol, and they also had grass seed, insecticide, fertilizers, and top dressing sand. So similar products that are required for the modern golf course superintendent. He did write some books, Golf Course Architecture with Allison. This is probably one of the definitive books of the 20s, and a book called The Links, which is also an interesting read if you get a chance to read some extra golf course design stuff. There's Mr. Colt out on a design mission. You can see he was a rich guy. He's got the hat on. He's got his owners. And then he's got his underlings who are putting turning points out there. And he's in the field actually laying the course out. And he believes strongly in that, as did some of the more modern architects. Country Club of Detroit, where my friend Kathy Anteo was golf course superintendent for about 10 years. The Eden course at St. Andrews, kind of the third best golf course at St. Andrews. I'm going to show you some pictures of that, and one that's really quite underappreciated. The Seaside, Sea Island Golf Course, the Seaside 9, really one of the best 9-hole golf courses forever, was just redone as an 18-hole golf course by Davis Love, who is a big Colt fan. We did a golf course in Illinois with Ross, and he also routed Pine Valley. So that's a pretty important collaboration that we're going to talk about when we talk about the Pennsylvania School of Golf Course Design. And here's a picture of the routing of Pine Valley, and you can see it's a good routing, very similar to the routings of Ross, where they come back into these areas in a very walkable, treacherous golf course. Here's the Eden Golf Course. I think that one of the things I like is there's a wall behind the first green, so you can bounce it off the wall there. And this is something that Davis Love used for his golf course at in Myrtle Beach, at their golf course down there that has Barefoot Landing. Pretty neat golf course. These holes, I think it's 15. Oh, never mind. That's a different golf course. But you could see a nice Colt that's really underappreciated at St. Andrews. Here's that at Barefoot Landing hole that I was talking about in South Carolina. You can actually play somebody in my group actually had to play a shot over the wall back onto the golf course. So this is a simulated old plantation, and gives you something to look at on a really flat wasteland site. So I like it for a short par 4 with a very difficult bunker here, very deep. You could drive that bunker, or many of the guys in here could drive this bunker. So a smart layup shot, or a risk-reward shot where you could end up over the stone wall, or off the stone wall onto the green, or off the stone wall into the deep penal bunker. Colt lived to be quite old. 82, outlived most of his friends, was a little bit bitter in his old age. So a lot of the golf course architects died kind of crumpled up, bitter old men. Now the third architect we're going to talk about is Fowler. Lived from 1856 to 1941. Did not take up golf till he was much older, at 35. He was a member of the Company of Edinburgh and St. Andrews, partner with Tom Simpson, who wrote the architectural side of golf. So a guy coming into design late in life. Walton Heath is probably his one of his most famous golf course, done in 1904. Took a really long time, took 2 years to plan this golf course. He rode around the site on horseback a lot, thought about it, designed it, so he did not just throw this together. This was a labor of love. It took 3 years to build. When it opened, the most famous golfers in all of London, the Triumphant, Varden, Taylor, and Braid. Braid, who was the pro at Walton Heath after it was designed, were brought there to have an opening match, similar to some of the matches that are done by some of the modern golf course architects, Jack Nicklaus, Arnold Palmer, etc. These guys come for opening day. And this was a great big event in Surrey, England in 1904. And here's a picture of the Triumphant. Taylor was a great big man. You'll see from the movie he hit it further than anybody. Braid had massive hands. He was became a golf course architect. Braid did not come to the United States because he was deathly afraid of travel. And then Harry Varden, who did come to the United States on many occasions. So Taylor and Braid came over to win the Open that we beat them in. So Of 20 Open Championships, they won 15 between the three of them, the 20 before World War II. So this was a very interesting time for golf, and these guys were the pinnacle of the sportsmen of the day. So Fowler really said this exhaustive study of the ground of 3 years building this. Badly placed greens will never command the respect of the golfer. So the routing was very important to Fowler, and this is one of another thing that you can, if you're going to design golf courses, you need to think about this stuff quite deeply. And Fowler also did Eastward Ho, Los Angeles Country Club, Cruden Bay, and Cruden Bay is in Scotland, Los Angeles Country, California, and then Eastward Ho is in Massachusetts. He trained Tom Simpson, J.F. Abercrombie, and Arthur Kroom. So Simpson's probably the one that is most known for his books and wrote a lot about golf course design during the 20s and 30s. And just some other things about his designs: rolling terrain, ocean settings, tree-lined fairways or something new, elevated greens. So from high tees to a lower fairway to up an elevated green. That's a pretty important tenet of golf course design, and that seems to work. People enjoy playing holes like that. Simpson wrote, again, more famous for, we're not going to need to know any of the golf courses he did, but we will want to study some of the things he wrote. He talked about making every hole interesting, and that is something that the good architects really worked on. Maximize variety, nothing the same. You shouldn't be using 5-iron on every hole. You should use every club in the bag. Don't impede the natural beauty of the land. Reward good golf, but also let the great golfers and the poor golfers enjoy the round. So design the entire round from start to finish. Don't leave anything to chance. And that was what good advice for good architects. So the final architect we're going to talk about in this section is James Braid. Was a pro at Walton Heath, 5-time Open champion, did hundreds of courses. Hated changes made to his golf courses. He would go up, lay stakes out, and that was it, leave. So on some occasions, like at my favorite golf course, Brora in northern Scotland, they went up there, laid it out one day, he played around the next day, and he came on back. And the design has stood the test of time. Interestingly, he was the first golf pro, to be admitted to the Royal and Ancient Club of St. Andrews. That was a pretty big deal. That was he had really made it. This was something in the movie you'll see Varden really wanted, but he did not, never attain that status. Here's a Braid design. This is one of the famous par 3s at Glen Eagles, and that's like the frying skillet. It's a very elevated green. This is the first green to ever have drainage. There's actually a hole in a hollow on that green and a pipe that comes down into this bunker right here. So that's the first drainage. It's almost like something you would see on a putt-putt course where the balls go down it. So they've got a cover over it, but it's just a kind of a hole in a depression. So you would have to get a free drop from that. And this is a place where they play the Scottish Open, so it's not an easy golf course and not a low-maintained golf course. This is a very highly maintained golf course. Some more pictures of this hole. Difficult rough. You're on that green or you're in trouble. And there's another picture of that. So as you walk up to it, you can see it's a severely elevated green. All of these Heathland architects, we know, played the old course. We know they studied the old course and its subtle strategies and recognized it. So one of the things Simpson wrote about was the 4th at Walking, which is a hole that they designed, is similar to the 16th at St. Andrews. Railroad down the right side, bunker in the middle, So Tom Simpson had this realization when he was in the locker room, and the guys were really complaining about how hard this 4th hole was at walking, and how much they hated it. And then he thought back about the 16th hole at St. Andrews, and it was a hole that everybody loved. So loved and hated are similar places. And I think as you study the writings of the class on the favorite hole and least favorite hole, I would not be surprised to have some people have a favorite hole that was somebody else's least favorite hole. That has happened in the past. Here's that 4th at walking. You can see the out of bounds down the right. This bunker here, which is similar to the principal's nose. Wide, yet difficult golf hole. And there's the principal's nose a little bit off to the side, but again, the out of bounds down the right side. And a very similar wide fairway that the preferred line is actually down the third fairway. So you play the best route. And if you want, you can review this. This is in the first lecture on St. Andrews. There's a video of this hole. And there's that tee shot. It looks like you just need to go up here, but instead you need to hit your shot way out over here to come back into that green. So, this is between World War I and World War II, 1900 to 1913. Golf course architecture became a profession where you didn't have to be a golf pro. Respectable golf could be played on other places besides the links, so this is the first time we bring it to the upland. Geometric shapes are abandoned. Strategic holes begin to show up in some of these penal courses. So design takes some big leaps forward that we owe to these Willie Park Jr., Colt, Fowler, and Braid. That will do it for this lecture. Please study your notes and get ready for the exam in 2 weeks.